I I am the founder of TheRightWords. I help you level up your communication skills so that you are well equipped to connect more deeply during any interaction, which basically means I'm helping you build stronger relationships. I'm
Mm.
helping you learn how to negotiate and to deal with conflict. So no matter what environment you're in, you're able to take accountability for yourself and navigate that successfully. So I work with a lot of different people when it comes to fear of public speaking or fear of being on camera and all of these things. Well, we'll save video for just a minute, but with speaking, everyone is always afraid of being judged. We have
Ah,
this feeling that we get on stage and what if we forget everything and then someone's going to laugh at us and we had our script perfectly memorized and now we can't remember a thing and we're going to look stupid. And I I've always been a performer, but there were definitely times where I didn't feel 100% comfortable on stage. So I started doing this thing when I was a little kid because I've been performing since I was a kid, where I would just pretend that I was a character, and I
mm.
would just I and it's sort of like a meta thing because I wasn't being someone else. I was still using my personality, and everyone's personality is multifaceted. So I would just choose a part of my personality, and I'd say, okay, this is the character I am, and because it's not me, even though it is, but just my mindset, because it's not me, nothing bad can happen. This
Well,
character is going to
this
go
is like
up.
method acting, isn't it?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're preparing yourself, but the thing that's different is that instead of spending time in an environment pretending to be someone else, you're just getting connected more deeply to yourself
Mm.
and to so your personality, you have a standard personality, but there are different, I mean, it's multifaceted. So the the energy that you bring in different environments might be a little bit different. So when I would go onto stage, I would say, okay, well, this character is going to go up there and do what she does best, and nothing bad can happen because no one knows what I have planned. I mean, they have a general idea, but I could do something totally different than what I had in mind, and no one would know otherwise. So, but the biggest thing is a lot of people feel like they need to memorize everything they're going to say,
Yes.
and in some situations, like a TED talk, you really do have to because you have I mean, to a point, you have a restricted amount of time. You have, like, there's a sort of cadence that they're looking for. But in a general sense, the best way to give a really strong presentation and to sort of eschew all of those fears of public speaking is to not rely on slides and to not have a bunch of information on them. If you have a few slides, they should be triggers for you. So the way that you can feel most confident is to just have stories prepared. So you're going to be giving this presentation talking about something, but just have different stories prepared. So you're starting off with this topic, you have a story for that. You're moving on to the next topic, you have a story for that. And something, so I used to do a lot of comedy and acting, and something that they taught us to do was when you were getting to, if you had a really long monologue or you had a really long, your lines were just longer than they normally are, they would say you should have a gesture that when you're getting to a certain part of what you're going to say, because that will help that memory to come out, and then you'll be
Ah.
able to remember. So it evokes a feeling because you're making emotion, and then you're able to remember what it is you were going to say.
So it's almost like a physical mnemonic device that's used as a trigger for rhetoric that you want to share. That's really interesting.
Exactly. That's
I
a
haven't
perfect
heard
way
that
to
before.
describe it. That's a
Yeah,
perfect way to
that's
describe it. And that's what I always say whenever anyone's giving any sort of presentation, whether it's in front of 1,000 people, whether it's in front of class, have triggers. Have
mm.
have different things, whether those are these physical mnemonic devices or slides that have a bullet or two, or even no words, they just have a picture, and have that be a trigger to remind you of the story you're going to tell.
You know, mnemonic devices are such a part of my daily flow as I meet people. I mean, this morning I had a JKD, a Jeet Kune Do. This is martial arts. This is Bruce Lee's martial arts training. In this class, the person that I partnered up with, his name was Clay. So I had met them for the first time, and you know. I said, "Hey, what's your name?" He said, "Clay." And instantly, right when he said that, I just pictured a block of clay.
Yeah.
It's just become a part of what I do when I meet people because I don't want to forget things. Do I have a good memory? I don't know, but
Yeah.
this is one of my tricks. I really like that idea of like a physical trigger. That's interesting.
And that's a great mnemonic device. That's actually, I think it was, I learned that from Jim Quick, about creating imagery in your mind to remember names. So, for instance, if I met someone named Courtney, I would think of a tennis court and then
Yes.
someone skinning their knee on the court.
Yes.
And then I have that story in my mind. So then when I see her, I'm like, oh, right, someone skinned their knee on the court. That's Courtney.
Yeah, that's great. That's so good. So, you mentioned comedy. You mentioned, I guess, stand up, right?
So I did stand up, but I did a lot of improv and sketch as well. So
Ah.
the improv was the main focus, and then I also did stand up and sketch.
So is this like Groundlings? Have you heard of that or?
I have. So I was in Chicago. So I took some courses at Second City and then also studied at Improv Olympic and then had an improv team called the Lungers. And we would go around and we would perform at different locations around Chicago. And then as far as stand up went, I basically at any party I was at would just tell stories, and that would I mean, that's what stand up is telling stories that evoke a happy emotion and make people laugh. And the funniest thing, and I always say that everyone should try improv because it's preparing you
Totally
for
agree.
anything. I don't
Totally agree.
like, is improv my favorite way to perform comedy? Definitely not. But something that I do love about is it prepares you for any situation. So what I really love is having a structure. So having some general rules, some boundaries, and this is actually something that I use in the way that I teach. But it's having boundaries and then being able to bend the rules. So you have this basic thing you know that you're going to do, and then you add on to it as you see fit. But the really cool thing about telling stories is that you always have this part of the story that you think is going to just kill. It's the punchline, you think everyone's going to crack up, but usually the part that people laugh at the hardest is the part that you didn't expect at all. It's not funny to you. There's no comedy in it, and then people are just cracking up, they're dying and you're thinking, "Well, I don't understand." But that's the beauty
Right.
of practicing and telling your story in different ways to different types of people, and that's something that you can apply right back to public speaking.
I totally agree with you. I had the really fortunate experience of actually doing live stand up, which was all improv. And it was something I just opted into. It was an open mic night. It was cool. It's not nothing special, but I kind of realized I think someone had told me a long time ago in my life that listen, if you really want to work on your public speaking, being confident, being able to speak off the cuff, you need to go into put yourself into uncomfortable situations, right? And of course, as an experienced comic or someone that's doing improv, it's not uncomfortable because you have a practice. It's a muscle that you've created. But as a newbie, being put in that situation, it made me realize how important it was to focus on the storytelling, to focus on the human aspect of it. And then it really didn't matter to a certain extent of what you were saying, it was how you were saying it. And the
Mm-hmm.
last thing you could do is to memorize your whole bit because you'll probably end up failing because there's no humanization in that. You mentioned TED Talks earlier, and I think what's interesting about TED Talks is that as we watch them, it looks like everything is perfect. The person is so articulate, it's a cogent 15, 20-minute
Mm-hmm.
dialogue. There is so much recording and practicing and training and rehearsals that go into those specific types of videos. Those are not
Mm-hmm.
ad hoc by any stretch. So I think it's
Right.
important that people know that when people watch those videos, that those are rehearsed pieces of video. Those aren't
Yes.
improv per se. So
Right. Yes, those are rehearsed incessantly to the point where you could basically recite in your sleep. But the thing is that there are different ways to deliver information, and you just have to decide which way is going to be most effective for you, and also environment by environment, which way is going to be
With Dub, you can easily send your business videos from Gmail, LinkedIn, CRMs, and so many more places, but you don't have to take my word for it.
Absolutely perfect.
Screen records, landing pages that can really help businesses to grow.